kick us off. This is the second webinar in the Mountain Fire Ag Recovery series that's been put together as a collaborative project between Farm Bureau, CoLab, a bunch of other agencies that you're going to hear from today, and then of course with a lot of support from the Ag Commissioner's office. So I wanted to welcome you, Corinne. Go ahead and take the floor.
All right, thank you so much, Maureen and Louise from CoLab for getting this meeting together, and all of the other agencies that are helping facilitate this and provide information for our impacted growers. As we mentioned in the last webinar, we're not new to this experience. Unfortunately, Ventura County is getting accustomed to fires and disasters of sort, but for those impacted, it doesn't diminish the pain, the fear, and the struggle. So we just want to emphasize how much we want to be of support during this time, and so we're hoping that this webinar series can be a good resource for you during this extremely difficult time. And again, because this isn't new to us, we have learned some things over the years, and we have some collectively we have some information to share that we hope will be helpful. Alec from our staff is going to go over some of the updated numbers. We did receive some information just this morning that says that we may have a lot more rangeland impacted that we were aware of. It looks like we've done as much of the ground truthing as we can, and so now we're relying on people getting back to us with the surveys, and we'll be making phone calls and reaching out to get that information. And I think it's really critical to remember that you know, there's a lot of different agencies that are asking for this information, but we all kind of do different things. And so, you know, can be frustrating for folks to say, like, I already reported this, but if we don't get it, then we can't advocate for the things that we need on our end. For example, talking to Tom Crocker from the Cattlemen's Association, he was a former president, and Bev Biggers, our current president, and just talking about how he was hearing that people are going straight to the Farm Service Agency, which is great. But then locally, if we're going to try to advocate for folks to, for instance, get hay supplementation, like we did in the Thomas Fire, it's important for us to have these numbers as well, so that we can work together. And it is a collective work that we do. So just would really like to stress that we're not trying to bother you. We're not trying to be nosy. We're really only trying to help. And so if you can provide us that info, that would be great. And then that way we can do our best to help and advocate for you.
And on that note, our staff has had to either return to normal duties or be present at the local assistance center. So the last update number to our ground truth survey, what just crested $7 million in damage, but we know that that is only a fraction of the affected acres, especially with the news this morning that more rangeland was affected than first estimated. And so those disaster assessment forms are now the really important thing to get turned into us. They'll be available on both VC Recovers and our website. They are also printed out in person at the local assistance center with our staff who can answer questions about it. Several of our staff members out in the field have the forms with them as well and can go over the form with you. All of them do need to be turned into me. The form has my email on it, and if you get it off of either of the websites, there will be a button at the bottom that when you're done, it'll automatically email it to me for you. And that is how we will get our numbers reported to FSA and start getting some of those programs additional funding opened up.
Great. Corinne, I know you're busy. Did you want to review the public health information now, or?
Sure, I can do that for sure.
Sure. Let me share my screen.
One of the things that came from the Thomas Fire was an outbreak of different cases of farm workers contracting belly fever. And before the Thomas Fire, we really weren't aware that valley fever existed in our county. And so this time we thought we would be a little bit more proactive. So we reached out to public health and to see if there was any kind of guidance that they could provide as far as how to protect yourselves and your farm workers when you're out there trying to get irrigation back to your orchards and digging in the soil and moving around the ash and dust and different things. And so public health did provide this little flyer, and we can send that out to you, and we'll, post it on our website and whatnot. But I thought it was worth mentioning to this group, as you're all probably in the process of trying to get these orchards cleaned out, cleared out, and irrigation back to your trees. And so this will be important to remember while you're doing that. And also, we do have a large supply of N95 masks available for fire, and we are expected to get some wind, and so it'll be really important during these early days, in particular with all the ash blowing, that we're all protected and safe. So we do have those masks available at our Santa Paula office for distribution. We are distributing them on a first come first served basis, but we've been told that we can get more. So hopefully you take advantage of that, and that can be another resource for you.
A question for you, Corinne, related to the form, the damages form. How accurate does the survey need to be when they submit it? Obviously, there's people who have more, you haven't gotten a full scope of what the damages are. Is it better for them to wait and submit later, or should they submit their best guesstimate now?
That's a great question, Maureen, and we were actually, Alec and I were discussing that on the way over, because some people have filled out the form and said, I don't know. And it's true. I mean, I look at our trees from the Thomas Fire are dying now, 7 years later. So it is difficult in the event of the emergency to know exactly, if you've not been through it, like Rachel Lanen had that experience from the 90s to fall back on, to know, okay, I know that this orchard got burnt in such a way that these trees are going to die. Not everyone necessarily has that. So I think it's understandable if you don't know the extent of your damages at this moment. We're just asking for your best guess. And again, you're not going to be committing perjury if you don't have the number exact. We know it's not an exact science. So some information is better than none, and we can help you with those estimates based on our crop report numbers and whatnot. So if you're having trouble with those estimates, we can help with that. So reach out to us and let us know if you're having trouble putting the numbers down. But it is really important to get us something so that we can use that information to help advocate for you.
And if I understood correctly, this number isn't going to go to like insurance agencies or other agencies to be used for individuals. Like someone's not going to come back later a year and be like, well, you told the ag commissioner it was this.
Yeah, so
It's
individual
just going to
information is,
be. Mhm.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna say individual information is confidential, similar to the crop report, right? We don't share individual information. It's part of a compilation. So no one's individual form will be shared. It's just part of a larger number. And again, gives us the ability to advocate for certain, programs and assistance.
Great. Thanks for using the QA, guys. If you have any other questions, drop them in the Q&A or in the chat. All right. Anything else, Corinne, before we move on to RCD?
No, I think we're good for now, but happy to answer any questions as they come up.
Thank you so much, and thanks for hosting our in-person option. All right, RCD, you're up.
Just give us one moment. Meanwhile, on behalf of the BCRCD team and our directors, I would like to thank the fire personnel for their rapid response to this incident. And I'd also like to thank them for having the infrastructure in place to clearly convey and communicate with the public and with our communities. And I'd also like to thank the communities for listening when they were asked to prepare to leave, and then for following through when they were told to leave. As heartbreaking as it was to do so, I really do feel that it was that disciplined response by the community that allowed us to escape the worst this incident could have brought. So thank you to everyone. Okay, it looks like our slides are up. Please let me know if you cannot see our first slide. And we prepared these slides simply because we want to give a little bit of background and context to some of the assistance that we can provide. And so just briefly, I'd like to introduce the Ventura County Resource Conservation District. For those who are unfamiliar with us, our mission is to work with public and private land stewards to conserve and protect natural resources for current and future generations. We achieve that mission by applying for local, state, and federal grants that then allow us to implement projects which provide technical and financial assistance to our communities. VCRCD is defined as a special district. So that means that we serve the unincorporated areas of Ventura County. And as such, VCRCD's primary beneficiaries are farmers and ranchers and their communities. As I mentioned before, VCRCD is primarily funded by grants. Unfortunately, what that means is that VCRCD does not have baseline funding to reallocate towards rapid incident responses such as the mountain fire. However, that said, VCRCD does have existing projects that may be leveraged to provide direct or indirect assistance. And I also want to underscore that VCRCD does anticipate applying for grants that will provide direct relief for mountain fire related expenses. And so with this, if we can go to the next slide, I just want to talk a little bit about our current projects. So again, these are projects that are grant funded, and those funds are available now to either directly or indirectly assist with recovery from mountain fire impacts. So again, a little bit of background. For our current projects, our projects typically are used to reimburse farmers and ranchers for the costs of implementing certain conservation practices. And again, while they are not directly tied to the mountain fire because these projects were funded before this incident occurred, nonetheless, these projects may help farmers and ranchers recover from this incident depending on the type of response that they may feel is necessary or suitable. Now, we've talked quite a bit in the previous webinar about erosion being a potential impact. So I want to start with soil-based practices that can be used to reduce erosion and to reestablish pollinator and wildlife habitat. This was also brought up as a topic in the first webinar. So projects that VCRCD currently have that might be leveraged to mitigate against erosion and also reestablish pollinator and wildlife habitat include the Pollinator Habitat Program, we call it PHP, and the Healthy Soils Program, HSP. Just a quick note, in talking with Emily, the project manager for these, she did want to make sure everybody was aware there's very limited funding left in the PHP program. And a lot of the funding for the Healthy Soils Program is geared towards socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers. So please, reach out to us about those programs if you have an erosion concern or if you want to reestablish pollinator and wildlife habitat. I also know that there are going to be impacts that involve both the loss of soil cover, vegetative cover, as well as impacts to irrigation systems. So we do have a couple of existing projects that can help meet these needs. One of them is called the Agricultural Environmental Water Quality Assistance Program, AQUA, and the other is called the Water Efficiency Technical Assistance Program, or WETA. Okay, so there are funds available there, again, depending on the impacts and also the underlying reasons for these improvements that might be applicable. I also want to bring up that we do have fire recovery projects. We have a fire preparedness program And a couple of the fire recovery projects that we have currently available, as well as coming up very quickly, include the Ventura Wildfire Resilience Planning Project, as well as the Ventura County Wildfire Collaborative Phase 2 project. I want to mention that for WRP, this is a planning project. And so now that we're getting into this time where we can assess where we have risks that could become future risks for wildfire, we want to make sure to engage with our fire teams. This includes the fire safe councils as well as Ventura County Fire to identify projects that can be implemented that will reduce the threat of wildfire in the future. And then for the VCWC or Ventura County Wildfire Collaborative, this actually does have funding available to implement fuel reduction projects. And so if you have ideas for how to do that, or project areas where this might be applicable, please be sure to reach out. I want to move on to the next slide. As I indicated, we have current projects that may be directly or indirectly beneficial to those who have been impacted by the mountain fire to help them recover. And even though I said we do not have baseline funding that can allow us to immediately pivot to address these types of rapid incidents, we're always on the lookout for additional funding. And so we do have future potential projects that either we have applied to or will be applying to if they become available, that I do want to mention. And again, funding is not guaranteed because these have not been awarded. But if they're awarded, we anticipate that these funds would be providing direct financial and technical assistance for the mountain fire incident. The two that I want to point out is the California Underserved and Small Producer Program. VCRCD was originally a recipient of the CUSP program for drought relief. However, CDFA's November solicitation included extreme weather and climate relief financial reimbursements. So that could be directly applicable again to the mountain fire should funding from CUSP become available to us. And I also want to point out that in years past, for example, during the Thomas Fire and other fire incidents, VCRCD was able to apply to the State Water Resources Control Board post-fire recovery program. We anticipate that if that becomes available, we will apply to that. I've already reached out to our grant managers and contacts over at State Water Resources Control Board to assess whether or not that funding will become available, and if so, we have a direct connection to apply. In the past, post-fire recovery program funds have been used to provide reimbursement for supplies that preserve water quality. And this is the State Water Resources Control Board. Focus of any project would be on preserving water quality. So that could include things like jute netting to control erosion, sandbags to maintain eroded material on site and out of waterways, wattles, even seedings to replant denuded areas. Okay. The last part of this slide, I want to circle back to what was mentioned by Lisa and Rachel at the first webinar. I thank them so much for making sure that everyone is thinking about certain things as they prepare to apply for potential funding opportunities. Okay, so it is very, very important since our role as part of our conservation partner ecosystem is to secure fundings for project implementation. We're very familiar with what the grantors of those funds expect for documentation. So I'd like to make sure everybody's thinking about these bullet points for these upcoming potential opportunities. So the first thing is, please take NRCS and Farm Service agencies and other third-party organizations up on their offer to provide documentation of impacts, losses, and anticipated expenses. it is good to have an idea of what you may need in terms of specifics as well as financials, so that you can easily input that into an application. And you can also provide that documentation to us so that we can more easily develop a budget to cover everybody's needs. And I would ask you that when you're submitting that, that disaster form to the Commissioner's office, that if you can, please make sure to print that for your own records, so that that's an easy way to get that over to those who might ask you for that, so that they can help you cover those expenses. So even though you have a third party documenting impacts, losses, and anticipated expenses, please make sure that you document those impacts yourself too. And please, where possible, photo document those impacts. And make sure that when you're photo documenting those impacts, have your geotag feature enabled on your phone. That way there's a timestamp and there's a location stamp, so that those photos can document where those needs are and specifically what they are. The third point is to make sure to quantify the costs and expected losses from these impacts in some kind of format that can be easily exported, such as an Excel. So in all cases, maintaining both a physical as well as a digital set of files is critical, because then you can more easily submit the digital files to whomever needs them. Meanwhile, you'll always have that physical backup. Fourth point is document any expense, maintain written logs, and please, please, please make sure to get and save all receipts. And again, where possible, make sure to digitize these. Second to the last bullet point, document assistance. Specify where it came from. So for example, what organization provided it, and also specify what it was spent on. The reason that this is important is because oftentimes we'll be able to secure local or state funding, and other agencies will be able to secure federal funding. And so if you document what you used, for example, federal funding from FSA on, then that allows us to determine what wasn't paid for, and then we can include those expenses for state funding. Okay, so please document your assistance, specify where it came from, what it was spent on. And also please date everything to the day, all right? So not to the minute, not to the hour, but at least date everything to the day. And the reason for that is because for one reason or another, just based on sort of budget considerations, etc., certain funding pools will become available only on specific days, or will cover only specific date ranges. So please make sure to date everything, and please do it to the day. To our last slide, this is our contact list. What I've noted here are our point of contacts for the various projects, and particularly sort of the strategic priorities within which these particular projects fall. So for soil and climate resilience type projects, that would be the PHP, HSP, and CUS. That would be Emily Nye, who's here with me. And you can see Emily's email as well as Emily's phone contact there as well. Water resources project, so Aqua Weta, this would be my colleague Vic, who is not currently with us in the office. His contact is there. Fire preparedness project, so this would be the WRP and VCWC. That would be Kevin, who is here with me here, and you can see his email as well as his phone number. For general inquiries, please reach out to our administrative coordinator. Her name is Alicia Miramontes. Her email and her phone is there. And by general inquiries, I mean, if you can't find a number for one of our conservation partners or for one of the partners providing relief for this incident, please don't hesitate to pick up the phone and call us, and we'll try to get that information over to you. I know that many of you in the audience may be familiar with me already, and we've commonly had a long history of dialogue. So if you wish to, you are always welcome to reach out to me directly. Again, my email and my phone number is there. But I would implore you to please go to the contacts that are already listed above me, because they'll be able to more directly address any questions you might have related to the particular projects. I also want to point out that you can learn quite a bit about our programs, and you can remain in touch with us by going to our web address. It's listed there to learn more about our projects. If you want to stay in touch, please sign up for our newsletter. That's how we'll get out information about, for example, the CUS project should be awarded funding for that, for extreme climate relief, as well as the State Water Resources Control Board post-fire funding. And as always, if you'd just like to say hello, please note our physical address at 3380 Somas Road. We're right here in Somas, so we were up close and personal to this incident ourselves. Please be mindful, however, that we may be out providing assistance to our communities, and so please call ahead to make sure there's somebody here to receive you. And with that, I thank you so much for your attention. And again, I want to thank everyone on behalf of the BCRCD team for all the work that they've done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Really appreciate you and your entire team is such an amazing resource, bringing all of the funds and projects to our community. And we really appreciate your long partnership. So thanks for making time to share with us today.
Morning, everyone. I'm Dave Ward, the County Planning Director. I'm also joined by Planning Manager Winston Wright, who focuses on a lot of the permitting applications and permit requests as they come in. We're going to be part of your team helping any rebuild that you need to be doing related to your agricultural structures or primary residences. If you have any agricultural worker housing, so we'll be here to support you in that. We also have Charles Ginkle, who's our Environmental Health Division Director, and he is going to be talking about I just lost the word, sorry, the debris removal, I'm sorry. And I don't know, Charles, if you need to jump ahead of me, that's fine. A lot of us here at the county are in various fire recovery meetings today as we continue on our rebuild plan. So Charles, if you do need to go before me, I'm happy to turn it over to you and then I can come in after you.
Dave, I'm fine if you want to go ahead and I can follow you.
Okay, all right. So the main thing the planning division has been working on beyond staffing at the local assistance center is temporary housing opportunities that can help a property owner who's impacted either for their residence or other permitted residential structures on their property that may have been lost, or if they're a caretaker or farm worker unit. So I'm going to share on the screen if I can. I'll see this document, hopefully.
Yep, I can see your screen.
Try to make it a little bit bigger here. There we go. We have information here about temporary housing that can be allowed on your property, either your property or an unaffected property in the unincorporated county. You could apply for a temporary housing permit. You could get yourself established on an unimpacted parcel with that property owner's consent. And then when the debris removal on your property has concluded and you're working on your rebuilding efforts, you could then move that unit back onto your impacted property. So that's an option for you. We have information, and I can put this in the chat once I finish, and this would give you quick answers for some of those questions you may have if you seek that type of housing. The other thing that we have is for the farm worker or caretaker unit. This was part of our ag worker ordinance a couple years ago that incorporated a temporary trailers option. And so this goes through the requirements. If you were to seek this, it gives it for a 6-month period, but then it allows for a 90-day extension. So if there's some interest here, if you have farm worker units that have been impacted and you want to pursue this, this is part of our current regulation today. If there are interest in this and say there's other lengths of time needed, it's possible that this could be a tool we could do through maybe an urgency ordinance. If property owners were seeking this type of housing and we needed more than what was envisioned in the adopted ordinance. So I'd be wanting to hear from you if you think that this is something that would be sought, but the limitation of time or number of them, something like that is would be beneficial to you in your recovery effort. That might be an opportunity for the county planning division to come up with a mountain fire ordinance to allow some flexibility. So those are the two main things for temporary housing. We're also focused on document for your properties right now that have been impacted for the purposes of your insurance, as well as what you will need with the building division as they assess the properties for damages. The fire department and the state Cal Fire has been involved in going through the various properties, trying to address the damages. So on our end, we'll be working to collect those records and information that will help you at the time you're working with your insurance companies. We'll be setting up recovery efforts with our planners to assist you on your ideas for rebuilding of your primary residences or ag structures. We're here to be a resource to you. We have been taking down contact information at the local assistance center. I'm not sure whether some of you online have yet gone to the LAC, but if you do go, they are registering people as they arrive, and we're able to get that information associated with the property. And my goal is that we'll be reaching out proactively to those registrants that have come to the LLC. Otherwise, you can contact the planning division, myself, at 805-654-2481. And I'll put that information in the chat as well as these two documents for reference. There's a long road ahead for the recovery efforts, but we want to be here to assist you. As you have questions that come up, we'll assist you as many times as it takes to assist your efforts on your focus to rebuild. So with that, unless there's a question from Winston or anything, then I'll turn it over to Charles.
Thank you everyone for being here today. Dave asked me to come in and talk to you a little bit about debris removal, and it's something that I can tell you that our division with environmental health has been highly focused on right now. And there's a lot of talk about rebuilding, and you know, I'm the guy raising the hand trying to let everyone know that, you know, we need to clean this debris up first. So where I'm at today, we are going to be going to the Board of Supervisors this Friday, and we are going to request from our board to stand up a local consolidated debris removal program. It's the same type of program that we set up during the Thomas Fire and the Hill-Woolsey Fire. That debris removal program is a it's a state-funded program, and we also when we run that program, it gives the homeowners an option. The focus for the program is going to be on burned structures that are associated with private property. We don't deal with public right-of-way areas. And so this state-funded program, once approved and implemented, we will be receiving what they call right of entry forms from the community. And it's a form of application that also gives us the ability or the right to enter your property and clean up your property. Homeowners also have the opportunity to clean up the fire debris as it's associated with the structure on their own. They can hire their private contractor. They still have to go through what we call our local program or private debris removal program, where they submit an application, which would be the contractor submitting that application. And we would just need to verify that they are an authorized contractor that can handle those types of materials, and that they're going to manage the materials from debris removal to transportation and disposal eventually. I currently want to ask for everyone's patience, because I know that this is, everyone's very much wants to pick up a shovel and get to work right away. But with that, I think it's worthwhile to wait to see how this consolidated debris removal program gets propped up and what options may be available, because some people may prefer to go with their private contractor. The obvious issue here is that it's time. If you use your private contractor, they're likely going to expedite things as much quicker than the state program. Giving you some time frames, with the Thomas Fire, we had about 1,000 properties, a little bit more, over 1,000 that were destroyed, and that happened in December. By May, they broke ground, and then by the end of June, they had all the properties cleaned up. So the process actually goes by rather quickly once they get started, but a lot of it is the assessments and getting the teams together, processing applications, making sure that all your neighbors are on board. Sometimes there's property rights issues with multiple neighbors on access roads, things like that. So it can be a challenging process. The last thing I'll share, part of that process is it's a two-phase approach. Phase one deals with all the hazardous waste that may be associated on your property. And right now I can tell you that there's teams already in Ventura County that are gearing up to go out in the field. They should be starting, I'm hoping, 2 teams tomorrow. That phase happens automatically. They're just going to show up on properties. There will be a press release that's going to go out today informing the community that phase has started. Phase 2 is when you do have that option to decide whether or not you're going to go with a state-funded county program, or if you're going to use a private contractor. In the end, we're going to require that everyone cleans up their property within a certain time frame, and that'll be going to the board this Friday. I'll share a phone number with everyone here as well. This is our environmental health message line related to debris removal, and we will triage any inquiries that come in. The number is 805-654-2432. Again, that's 805-654-2432. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Charles and Dave and Winston. I know it's a last minute request to join us, and everybody's anxious to get started, and really appreciate you making yourselves available and sharing the resources with the ag community so we can expedite. Really appreciate you making the time for us.
Great. Thank you. Just real quickly, just make sure you check back to VC Recovers or Ventura County Recovers. We will be updating that website probably weekly, and there should be more information to come. Thank you.
I'm Daisy Banda, and I'm the County Executive Director. And my office takes care of both Santa Barbara and Ventura County. And basically, I'm just going to tell you about the programs that we have that help when there's a wildfire. So I'm going to talk about a few different ones, and the first one we want to talk about is the emergency assistance for livestock, honeybees, and farm-raised fish program. Obviously, there's no fish in this situation, but it's just in the title. We like to call that program ELAP. So ELAP is gonna help the ranchers out there that lost grazing due to the fire. So if you have private land and your private land was burned and you don't have grass for your cattle, this would be the program that would help you with some of those costs. And it covers also people that have colony or hive losses. So also if, let's say you had some bee boxes out there, they got burnt, this program will help you replace some of those bee boxes. So ELAP is basically the program we have that helps the cattle ranchers that have private land. And an important note for ELAP is you have to file your notice of loss within 30 days of the event or when the loss becomes apparent to you. Next, we have another program that's also geared more towards our cattlemen and cattlewomen. It's the Livestock Indemnity Program, or LIP for short. And this is a program that's gonna help if you lost any animals. So unfortunately, sometimes cattle ranchers can't get out there in time to get their herds, whether it be just cows or maybe sheep, any type of livestock. If it died during the fire, or if you had to consequently, I guess, had to get rid of the animal because of the fire, this is the program that could help with that. It's called LIP. And like the other program, you have to file the loss within 30 days of the event or when it becomes apparent. And for this program, one of the things that's important is to have documentation. I know sometimes it's hard to go out there and look at your animals, especially if they're burnt. But if you could have any pictures to back it up, that really helps. Unfortunately, a lot of our programs need to have some sort of backup. So it could be diaries of the animals that you had, pictures of the animals that died, just some sort of paperwork that goes along with it would be very helpful to us so that we can make your case when we present it to our county office committee. We also have something called the Livestock Forage Program. Most likely this won't be the case for our area here. This is more geared for people that had federal land that was burned, but in the instance that there is somebody out there that has federal land that was burnt, instead of ELAP, you would be going through the Livestock Forage Program. And like the ELAP program, this would help with the feed costs that you'll have to incur because of the fire. The Tree Assistance Program, or TAP, is probably gonna be the most popular program that we have in times of fire in our office. This program is geared toward people that had orchards, whether it be avocados or lemons, or some people might have vines. It just, if you had a tree, a shrub, or a vine that died or was damaged because of the fire, this is the program that would help you replant or rehabilitate those trees. So for this program to be approvable, it's from person to person. There would have to be a mortality rate of 18% or more per stand. And a stand can be a different variety of tree. It can be maybe one field is higher up, one is lower down. It just a different type of area that we can break it up to. And at least in my office, we always try and work with the producer. And if there's anything we could do to spread out the stand, we try and help you. But yeah, you have to have at least an 18% mortality for the program to open up. And then the program will basically pay for the cost per tree, the planting cost, and also the site preparation. And the way we verify this is through a loss adjuster. So once you come into the office or you send us an application, we basically fill out an acreage report for you where you tell us how many acres you had and of what, and then we'll send out our loss adjuster, and the loss adjuster will go out on your ranch with you and just kind of verify the losses. So he might come back with a report that tells us there was these many acres of avocados and about 20% of them died, which is around 700 trees. That's just an example. So the loss adjuster works with our agency and they come back with the report telling us what happened. For this one, the deadline to sign up is within the 90 days of the event or when the loss becomes apparent. And I want to reemphasize when the loss becomes apparent, because I know that when we had the Thomas fire, some people didn't know that their trees were gonna die right away, and it wasn't apparent to them until later. So if you think your trees are not gonna make it and you wait a little bit and then that time passes and you realize, no, they're not, you could still apply for the program. You just have to be within the apparent date. This is very important. You can't start the project until the application is approved. So with the challenge with this is that we have a limited number of loss adjusters. So when this happens, some of us might have to go out and do the work as well as program analysts or as the CED. But we will try to get out there as soon as we can. We just want to have the report on file that says that we went out there and we did the loss assessment, and that we also completed something called an environmental review. An environmental review is just a review of the area. We want to make sure there's no endangered species, there's not a crazy erosion problem. It's just part of the process. But if you can, please hold off before doing anything so we can go out and document it and have your application. For this one, the average adjusted gross income can't exceed 900,000 for the applicant, so it has that limitation. And if you make over that amount, it wouldn't be a program that is open to you. The next program we have is the Emergency Conservation Program, or
Hey, Daisy.
Yeah,
I have a few questions in the Q&A about the TAP program.
yeah, go for it.
Do you mind if I ask them before you move on?
Go for it.
So how does the agency's tree assistance program determine the compensation for lost or damaged trees?
So there are set rates that we have that are mandated to us through our handbook, which is determined at the national level. And depending on the type of tree or the practice that you're doing, the rates will be determined. So let's say you have a tree, avocado tree, maybe the rate per that tree is like $15 per tree. We would basically pay you per tree in that instance. And then for like planting costs, like maybe it's, I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but it could be, oh, we'll pay you $5 for planting of trees, or it'll go based off of those rates mainly.
Okay. And then is the AGI for that commodity or the entire farm in general? Or is it for the entity or for the owner? How do you determine the adjusted
Yes.
gross income?
So the way we want the producer to apply is the way they conduct their farming operation. So if the farming operation is under an entity, then the entity will fill out an average adjusted gross income form and the first level members as well. But if it's an individual who's applying, then we would be looking at the individual's AGI and so on. So it's whoever the farmer is, whoever has that Schedule F, that's the one that should be applying for the program and the one that will be looking into the average adjusted gross income totals.
Okay.
And let's say, just for an example, let's say the entity is eligible and maybe the entity has 4 members and 3 of the members are eligible, but 1 isn't. In that case, we would just reduce the payment by that member's share. But for sure, the entity has to meet the eligibility. And then if some of the members don't, as long as the entity does, we'll just reduce it by that amount.
And then for the application, can the number of trees affected be an estimate or does it have to be exact?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We expect people to have estimates, and it's not a problem at all. If somebody writes down 1,000 in the very beginning and the loss adjuster goes out and he finds that there's 2,000, we'll just make the adjustment. It's just an estimate. We just want you to do your best guess and you won't be penalized if you answer incorrectly.
And then where can people look at that national manual that describes the compensation for the lost and damaged trees?
I think that a quick Google search for the TAP program, so like the tree assistance program, it's probably one TAP. But you could always call my office and I'll send you the link because sometimes it can be hard to navigate through all the different resources online. But yeah, call our office and we can look up those rates and just send you a screenshot of them.
Okay. And then Lisa Tate, did you have a comment you wanted to make?
Oh, no, she answered my comment actually. But I just wanted to reiterate because we have a LLC, and so each of our owners had to go through the process, and all the applications have to go through for all of the owners. So I just want people to be clear on that. That doesn't keep you from, like what Daisy said, that doesn't keep you from actually getting funding necessarily if someone makes more than that, because a lot of us have outside jobs, or
Yeah.
other income. And so just something to keep in mind, that if you do have that situation, your percentage gets kind of lowered based on the ownership criteria. I know that's confusing, but anyway, I just know that each member has to go through and provide their financial documentation, their signatures, and that kind of stuff. Because for our other entity that is a corporation that has over 40 owners, we couldn't go through that entire process with them. So just keep that in mind.
Great. Any other questions?
That's it for now. Go ahead.
Oh, my last name is Banda, Banda. Like
Yeah, I was
panda, but
gonna-
B for bear.
I'll put that in the typed answers for people.
All right, sounds good. So the emergency conservation program. So the emergency conservation program, unlike the other ones that I mentioned, doesn't just happen automatically. There has to be a request that's submitted and approved at a national level. So the way we do that in our office is we collect information from the producers and then also from our partner agencies, like the Ag Commissioner will come back with a report that tells me, hey, in Ventura County, because of the Mount Fire, we think we have $5 million worth of damage. And with that information, the information that I collect, the information from NRCS, I come up with a report and I present it to our county office committee, which is a group of farmers and ranchers that are in the area that kind of represent you. And then I'll let them know what I found and they'll either recommend or not recommend the implementation of the program. And once they recommend it, I send it up for national approval. And if it gets approved, the program opens up. So some of the things that this program can help with are debris removal, fence repair or replacement, conservation structures, things like irrigation. A lot of the things are basically trying to get the land back to how it was before the disaster happened. And this is a cost share program. So depending on the practice that you're doing, kind of like with the tree assistance program, we'll pay you a percentage of that cost. And the agency does establish those rates. Like the tree assistance program, we also have to have an environmental review before you start your practice and an application. But we understand in the office that sometimes you can't wait. You have to water your trees because if you don't water them, they're gonna die. If you're in that boat and you need to do something now because it's an emergency, please contact our office so we can try and get you a waiver so you can do this work ahead of time. We would basically ask you to write a letter just explaining why you have to do the practice ahead of time. And then we would look to get it approved for you so you could start ahead of time. Yeah, this program usually is very helpful and it's one of our most popular ones when we have these sort of disasters, but just like everything, there's rules and things that we have to follow. And just try your best to not go out there unless somebody's been there. But again, you need to go out there and you can't wait and you have to put in those irrigation things. Please contact our office and we'll do our best to get somebody out there to do this environmental review. I'm working closely with the Natural Resource Conservation Services, which is Brooks Engelhardt, and he's gonna be doing some of those reviews for us. We already have a couple people on the list and he's already getting started on those, so let me know if that's something that you need for your specific operation. Any questions on ECP?
None so far.
All right. And then, sometimes people need loans. Maybe you don't have the funding to do something. The emergency loans are the loans that are geared towards people that have a disaster type of situation. And those are also offered by my agency. We have a farm loan department that works with, farmers and ranchers in, District 4, and we have a farm loan manager, Gary Troyster, farm loan analyst, Terry Hetzel, and a farm loan officer trainee, Alex Hernandez. And if you think you're gonna need a loan, an emergency type loan, or just a operating loan, something like that, please contact them and they can give you more information about loans. They're very helpful and there's no dumb questions. So if you have a question, please just call. We're more than happy to work with you.
Daisy, I have a dumb question.
Yes,
Can you go into the 30% loss? Cause I think
Yes.
that's a little confusing for folks.
yes. So part of the thing that I do is collect the information for the producer's losses. And I submit that information into one of our software programs. And in order for the emergency loans to open up, one of the requirements that is that there should be at least a 30% loss, or that producers are unable to get funding elsewhere. So if we can get that 30% loss, it automatically opens it, but as if at least one person says, hey, I'm not able to get funding elsewhere, then it would also open the emergency conservation, the loans.
Right, but as far as the 30% goes, it's not 30% of one producer.
No, it would be as a county hall.
That's what I was hoping you could clarify, because
Yeah.
that is confusing, because you could have several people that are 100% wiped out,
Mhm.
but they're still not eligible for this until the entire county is considered a 30% loss. And it's commodity specific? So like 30% of the avocados in the county have to be wiped out, so it's not,
Mhm.
yeah, so I think that's important for people to know. This is a
Yes.
pretty steep threshold to reach.
Yeah, Corinne is right. But yeah, we always try and do our best to get you the help we can, but sometimes unfortunately with these requirements, our hands can be tied at points, but please report your losses to either Corinne or me, and both of us, please, actually most.
I was gonna say,
Both
if
of
you
us.
can, both of us, because we do different things and we
Yeah.
work with each other, so I think it's important. I hate to duplicate efforts for everyone, but it's important for us both to know what's going on.
Yeah, we want the most information possible so we can get you all the help you need. And then here's some of the contact information for our office. Of course, we have a website where it talks about the different programs that we have and the loans, and that's right there. The local FSA office is in Santa Maria, and our phone number is listed there. I also included the name of the different program analysts and what their areas of expertise are. For the tree assistance program, we have Dulce Espinosa Valdez, who will be leading that, and she speaks Spanish. We also have the emergency conservation and the non-insured disaster assistance program, which is run by Tiffany Castillo. And then anything cattle, ELAP, LIP, or LFP, Brenda Marie Mann would be the person to contact. And then here's a list of the farm loan contacts that we have in the office. Our farm loan manager, Gary Troyster, farm loan analyst Terry Hetzel, and the farm loan officer trainee Alex Hernandez. And to get in contact with any of us, the phone number is the same. Just dial extension 2 and we'll send you to the right person. And then lastly, I really quickly just added the link because I heard them talking about how important it is to tell us about your losses, and I didn't have that in my presentation, so I just really quickly added it. If you scan that QR code, it'll take you to the form where you can tell us about your loss, or if you want to type in the link, that will also work. So with that said, I'm really sorry that everybody's going through this, but just know that we're gonna do our best to help you at our agency, and anytime you have a question or aren't sure about something, or maybe you're filling out a form. I know that government forms can be very confusing, and our staff is there to help. If it's something that we can help over the phone, we will do that, or if you want to meet in person, we've also gone to NRCS's office. Since we don't have one here, we can meet with you there, or if maybe the ag commissioner.
Yeah, so I was
Right,
gonna
mhm.
talk to you about that, Daisy. So when we went to the local assistance center, there's a space constraint. And so I think it might be more comfortable for all involved to do them either out of our, NRCS or our office here in Camarillo. Because it's pretty tight. Like, we expected to have 2 people there at all times, and we can only fit 1. So it doesn't really, the space doesn't accommodate for people sitting down and filling out forms, which
Yeah.
is, here we have a lot of space
Yeah.
to do that. So, I know Bev sent out an email that's saying that you'd be at the local assistance center,
Yes.
from, what, you said 9 to 2?
Yeah.
Can we modify that and change
Yeah.
that so that you do it here or
Yeah.
NRCS, whichever you're more comfortable,
Mhm.
or is more convenient for folks? Because I think the space there is just not gonna be conducive to that.
Yeah, I'm open to anything. If it's easier for the producer or the rancher to go to the ag commissioner and have us more space, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, so I think you just need to make the decision and let everyone know on the
Okay.
webinar, and then we can announce that, because I was hoping we could advertise it
Okay.
wherever you end up being, because I know there's a lot of interest, and that was very, very helpful for the producers of the Thomas Fire to have
Yes.
someone in person helping
Yeah.
them through all of this paperwork. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. How about today I go to the LAC just because that's what we had previously announced, and then tomorrow Brenda Marie's gonna be coming. So I'll send her to your office, and she can work with producers there.
Okay, we can work out of this room?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, so.
Daisy, can
everyone-
you make sure that you're communicating when you're available and where, so that we can let people know? Because I know you had told me you were going to be in town, but I didn't know where. So I didn't distribute anything. So
Yeah.
whenever you guys are available, we want to shout it out to the whole community as much as possible.
Yeah, agreed. I think all of our, we'll send an email blast out, Maureen will send out hers, and Louise can send out hers. We can all kind of disseminate the information. Bev as well, because I think a lot of people are super interested in that, so.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk after, get a schedule, and then send it out.
Sounds good.
And then Brooks and Jordan, do you mind just saying a quick hi? So because I know some people are on this call that weren't on the other call, and I think it's always good to get people connected to their local NRCS.
Yeah, this is Brooks with USDA NRCS. So I have also been receiving emails primarily from farmers affected by the mountain fire. And right now we're probably the program that's probably most available to farmers impacted by these and ranchers too on the rangeland is the ECP program. So as I receive the request for assistance, I've been forwarding them up to Daisy and Tiffany.
Brooks, I have a question. In the Thomas Fire, we had, and then I'm sure you all remember who lived it. The Montecito mudslides were almost immediately after the fire kind of was put out. I know for our property, NRCS came out and did an assessment of how to protect what you have left. from potential erosion, and came up with a plan. They came out, they had a team, they came out, they prepared a plan and then presented it to us. Is that program still available? Are you guys still doing that?
Yeah,
I-
that's actually just part of our conservation and technical assistance program.
So how would folks get in touch? Do they just contact you and then request that? How does that work for folks?
Yeah, phone call or email. Our our phone number is well, my phone number, or our general mailbox is 805-609-2965.
All right, Jordan, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Jordan Atmore. I work with Brooks over at the Natural Resource Conservation Service in Oxnard. Not much to say besides what he had to say, but to piggyback off of the erosion control, I did just meet with that assessment team not too long ago for fire in Santa Barbara County. And the guy reached out to me and said that he was probably going to be in the area soon because he heard about the fire. So that is definitely still a thing.
Great. Well, Daisy, I know people are really eager for the information that you shared with us, so really appreciate that. And I know we're going to do our best to shout it out to our community. I know CoLab is on here too, the Coalition for Labor, Agriculture, and Business, and they'll keep communicating in the community as well. And just want to really thank you for taking the time to participate in the webinar. I think your resources are fantastic and we can't wait to avail ourselves of them. So yeah, I just wanted to express my gratitude for your participation in the webinar series.
No problem. We're here to help.
Great. Is there anybody else here from an agency or another group that was hoping to present today? I know I don't have everyone's name memorized. So if you haven't gotten your airtime, will you raise your hand in the chat? Or in the reactions on Zoom? All right. Matthew, you should be able to speak.
Hey, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Appreciate it. I'm not to add too much more here, just to say that California Farm Bureau, we're trying to pay attention and be helpful as we can. I know, Maureen, you've done a good job of connecting the folks on here with the important boots on the ground, people they need to know. But if there's ways we can be helpful, certainly, unfortunately, isn't our first rodeo on dealing with many of these programs, especially those that filter down through USDA. So as your members get plugged into these or have questions outside of what's already been provided, please don't hesitate to use us as a resource.
Really appreciate that, Matthew, and appreciate your time joining us to support.
Sure, thank you all.
All right, let's see, now's the time for those last questions, so throw your questions into the Q&A. We have a question here. Is erosion control something we can get funding for, and do we have to wait for approval? So I don't know, Daisy, if you can jump in on that.
Erosion control wouldn't, I don't think that's debris removal, let's see, land leveling and shaping. I don't think erosion control would be under ECP, but correct me if I'm wrong. Brooks, would that be more of you think?
Yeah, so there's well, I don't know all the practices available through ECP, but sometimes existing structures, erosion control structures, especially those that handle concentrated forms of erosion, if they were damaged by the fire, there's potentially those could be covered under ECP.
Yeah, from what I can think of,
yeah.
it's things that are already in place. Anything new that you're doing after, no, it would be something that got destroyed because of the fire.
Yeah, for new I guess, new resource concerns that have developed from the fire that are erosion related. We can take a look at that. There's some, some technical assistance that can be done for like immediate protection to protect any structures you have from debris flow. But otherwise, we have for most of you in the Cayugas watershed, we have this program called the National Water Quality Initiative that does cover erosion control. On that one, there'll be somewhat of a delay to get started, but we can take a look at those individually, each site. So.
And what about RCD with the Healthy Soils program? Help with anything there? I feel like you guys had some funding for erosion control efforts.
We do have healthy soil funds that if the practice is on the list of eligible through the Healthy Soils program, we can come out to your site and create a plan and a map and submit it for funding consideration. So the work cannot be started until the project is approved by our funders. But there are planting practices that could get like a conservation cover, like seeded on the ground to help try and reduce erosion. What Jamie mentioned previously about like laying down various control measures like wattle, that is a program that we're trying to get funding for right now. We haven't secured it yet. So Healthy Soils is probably, I'd say, our best erosion control application at this time for planting practices.
And does that include seeding specifically for erosion control? It's one of our Q&A questions.
The practices are like not necessarily specific to erosion control. They're like field border or conservation cover. Ultimately, they do help with erosion control, but so yes, but I would rather just talk one-on-one with farmers on their particular scenario so we can make sure my answer is specific to the issues on the land.
Great. This is kind of for anyone. We have a question in the chat about orchard recycling. Anyone have thoughts about orchard recycling?
Yeah, well, on the EQIP, under EQIP, we have a chipping practice for orchards. Right now, we don't have anything like any emergency practices right now that one can get done right away, but we do have a chipping practice. Yeah.
Great.
Right. Maybe Daisy can answer this too, though, for damaged trees that need to be removed because they're completely damaged. That could go under the debris removal practice.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. For any trees or debris that needs to be removed, it would fall under the debris removal. And if somebody only signs up for TAP, then it would be part of like getting the land prepared. And if somebody signs up for ECP, it would be debris removal. And if you do both, you can't get paid on both. So you would either choose to get it under TAP or get it under ECP when it comes to removing debris.
Great. All right. Any last questions, comments? I think that concludes our second webinar in this recovery series. So our next meeting, VRCD, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kevin. I'm the new fire preparedness coordinator. I wanted to mention with regard to recycling potentially like dead trees, like I know we have some fire grants, and I started 2 weeks ago, so I'm still learning and getting familiar with all the grants and projects, but I know that we do have potential funding for pile burning, and so that may be an option that could potentially be funded through some of our grants. And so as an alternative to chipping, if people are interested, they can contact me through my VCRCD email. My name is Kevin Mason, and that could be a potential, we might have funding for that, so yeah.
Great. All right, well, that's gonna conclude our second in the series of the Mountain Fire Ag Recovery webinars. And then we're gonna move on to December 6th at 10 a.m. It's a Friday, where we'll be starting to kind of do another touch-in. We have a couple of organizations that are gonna make themselves available to speak about things that happen kind of later in the process. And hopefully we'll get updated on damages and how it's going accessing the resources that we've brought forward today. So please join us then. And then I will process this recording and make it available to everyone to distribute with their communities. It takes a little bit, so it'll probably be tomorrow. But I wanted to thank everybody for joining. Thank all of you for presenting. And of course, our thoughts are with everyone who's been impacted. So please don't hesitate to reach out to anyone to help you in your recovery process. So thank you.